Welcome to the Path Monk Presents podcast. My name is Sean Donnelly Lewis, and today's episode we're talking with Eric Pratum. He's the head of digital strategy at BigWideSky. Eric, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
All right, why don't you just tell us about what you guys do? You can just give us kind of a big overview.
Yeah, for sure. So BigWideSky is what we call a human business consultancy. Basically, we're mostly reformed communications agency people that specialize in things like organizational culture, change management, values alignment, and then messaging around those things. So we do build websites, we run ads, we work in marketing automation and so on, but we also build apps. We do extensive research projects and workshopping with our clients. We do a lot of labs around organizational culture and values, and otherwise get involved in things that a lot of marketing agencies typically do not.
Okay. Wow, that sounds, I don't know where to start with that. You guys do so much. Okay, so what does that look like as far as clientele goes? Who would, obviously you'd be able to you have such a wide area or a wide,
Yeah.
who would be some clients, or what would be people that would be interested in what you do?
Yeah. So we, where what we are and what we do really connects with certain clientele or certain customers is in the type of person that we sell to. And we tend to have the most success with vision-oriented leaders. So the people that we often sell to are people that are excited by exploring the unknown and finding new opportunities for insight and growth that they may not recognize currently. Often this is CEOs, founders, and board members, but sometimes it's the head of marketing, culture, or product. And these are typically people who have a challenge that they're dealing with. Like, I know I need to build a new website, or I know that I need something in the marketing or communication space. But as we go through our sales process, in which we're very consultative, it's not unusual for us to uncover things where we say, you may need a new website, but you also have this problem with brand alignment or connecting with your audience on values or something else. And so the people that we tend to work best with are the people who are okay hearing there are other things out there that you haven't yet seen. Are you willing to discuss that?
Okay. How do you get your name out there? How are you connecting with people? What would be the way that you're, moving your brand forward?
Yeah, so because we tend to connect only with a certain type of leader, in particular leaders, the main way that we get connected to our clients is through word of mouth. Not every leader leads through vision or is interested in exploring questions that they may not have even considered before. And so as a result of that, the main people that find us are connections of former or current clients that share similar passions and interests. But while that main method, the word of mouth and connections, is the primary way that people find us, the second most common way is through our content. We write a fair number of articles. We produce videos now and then. We give presentations, now online, but previously at conferences or whatever else. And a lot of this content deals with contending with the future, rather than dealing with hitting your goals to grow 10% this year or whatever it is, which we do deal with those things. But rather than tending to deal primarily with that, we often are dealing with topics that, let's say, a founder would deal with. It's like, of course I need to get through the year, but I also want my business to survive for the next 20 or 100 years. And so what do I have to do? What processes do I have to set up? What structure, what organizational culture do I have to do to create something that can survive for the long term? And a lot of the content that we produce deals with questions that are really long-term, future focused. So often people are either getting recommended to speak to us, or a current or former client is saying to someone that they know, you got to check this out.
Very cool. Yeah, I'd love to hear how you let people's company and then their impact, right, carry on for 20, 100 years.
Yeah.
But we're kind of we're a tech podcast, so we're going to stay in the
Yep.
tech area
Yep.
rather than the visionary area. So obviously SEO, but what role would your website play?
Mhm.
Does it acquire clients as well?
Oh yeah, most definitely. So, all of your fairly typical channels and tactics that most organizations would undertake or would use, whether it's a search optimized website or you're running conversion rate optimization to provide the ideal experience to test different things, having nurture programs through email, organic social, um, paid advertising, search or display or whatever it is. All of those things are important to us and they play a role, sometimes more than others. And frankly, there are a lot of ways in which we present ourselves or we get out in front of current and prospective, future clients. There are a lot of ways where we can improve what we're already doing. But one of the biggest things for us where uh, we currently take advantage of technology and also where we can improve what we're doing is that we have to present our message. We have to connect on a value or a philosophy, where somebody can land on our website, maybe not having been searching for deep existential questions around survival of their business for forever, but they can see some of our content and say, that's the thing. I didn't know what I was looking for. I knew I had a problem, but that's the thing. And
Hmm.
so as a result, we have a lot of questions that we contend with in presenting ourselves that deal with not just getting the content out there, but also when someone encounters it, like a lot of organizations, how do we present a message that will connect with someone on a very deep level as compared to, we do really awesome websites or we do really awesome whatever it is, because I think we do that stuff really well. But if you needed a website, we're not the most awesome website shop. We're the website shop or ad company or whatever you want to talk to when you're dealing with a challenge that is hard to define.
Hmm.
So we have to use all of the technology and all of the channels, but the way that we message becomes more important than almost anything.
Right. So compelling content, having content that people can know, okay, this is what we do at Big Wide Sky, right?
Hmm.
This is our thumbprint, right? This is our individual taste, if I could say it that way.
Yes.
What would be what would be some room for improvement with the website? Would you feel what are you working on right now? How are you
Yeah.
improving that?
So, we rolled out a new website a year or so ago. And fortunately, because we do a lot of workshopping and because I have a background in both search engine optimization and also conversion rate optimization, I had ideas I had ideas for the, sort of technical basic building blocks of the website. What has to be in place from day one in order for people to find us and have a good experience, but then also how can we improve things? So
Hmm.
we started well, but we also started with assumptions. We were one place with our prior website, and like every organization, we're going to make it better. It's going to be 1,000 times better. People are going to come flocking to us, but you don't always hit the mark. And we had ideas about, we're not just your typical marketing agency. We are the best place, we think, if you're dealing with questions that are hard to define. So what is it that someone is going to respond to when they find our website, and how do we present that? Not just, is it a video, is it text, is it whatever, but also what are the statements that we can put on a website? And we settled around crises. There are certain crises that leaders contend with if they are an ideal a client of ours. And then, we also had to optimize the website for search and make sure that we're creating content that we can share in social that will then get reshared. So there are a lot of things to improve. And, as it relates to those crises, one of the main things right now is producing content. We have a series of videos that we'll have out, I think, within the next month or so, that deal with sort of being crushed by the typical machinery of a business process and structure and so on. But much like a website, when you produce those things, what can we do along the way in order to ensure that we're actually hitting the mark when the thing comes out? And then how can we integrate that content into what we're already presenting? Do we have a full width hero autoplay video on our homepage? Do we have a nurture campaign that we try and get people into? All of those questions are questions that we contend with just as we would with any one of our clients.
Okay. Interesting. Coming back around to what the service that you guys offer. Normally we ask what would be the competitive advantage, but it sounds like you're so niche, like you're actually trying to do something new, right? Is that it? Is you're trying to yeah, like you're saying, like define the undefinable. You're trying to actually find why people, if I could say, it's so cliche now to say, to find their why, right?
Yeah.
But
Mm-hmm.
but that would be what you guys do, correct?
There are a lot of similarities to what we do to a lot of different places. There are similarities to strategic planning to what we do. There are similarities to, the start with why sort of approach
Right.
or philosophy. There are similarities, a lot of similarities to your typical marketing agency. But, unlike a lot of marketing agencies, we build apps, we do big research projects, and we're not really an agency, we're not really a consultancy, and we even struggle to define ourselves with those terms because often, if you view yourself as a disruptor, for example, we're going to disrupt the marketing agency space or something like that, then you define yourself within an existing paradigm, which is great because it's easier for people to understand you. But if you're a technology company, for example, and you're not exactly competitor A or competitor B, you can define yourself within their language and people will understand you, but you may also chain yourself to a current worldview. And ideally, people see you as something different, despite the fact that that something different is sometimes hard to communicate. But you can become your own new, category definer if you're able to successfully connect with people. And that is part of what we're trying to do.
Okay. So thinking about how this looks on the ground, how this looks more concrete, how do you guys, when you guys have somebody who wants to work with you, what does that look like from, I'm going to put you in a box, but in a sales and marketing perspective, right? Like, okay, you're talking with them, but then you still have to make it still has to be a business, right? You still have to make, there's still money to be made. There's still mouths to be fed. How do you guys balance all that?
Yeah. So, we do a lot of things that are typical marketing agency work. I'm running a program right now for one of our clients, a worldwide ad program in 9 languages across 8 ad platforms, including a lot of landing pages in all of the 9 languages, of course. We didn't get into that discussion with the client asking us, to run ads for them. We got into the discussion because we do a lot of basically brand work, building new things for the client, and then figuring out how to present those to the world. But, a typical way that we go about our sales process, let's say, is someone will come to us with a marketing challenge. I need a new website. We had a current client of ours approach us about a new website maybe a year and a half ago. And after we talked to them for a while, it was really interesting. One of the first projects that we ended up doing was organizational culture and not a website. And then once we came out of the culture work where we were sort of from the ground up generating what are the values of this business? Why does everyone come to work every day? And why do they stay here rather than going somewhere else? After that, we had to message to the world about who the organization is and why their audience might care about them as compared to the next organization, the next alternative. Um, as we contended with that question or that issue, we then had to decide what is the next most logical step for you? Is it that website that we talked about 6 months ago? Is it some sort of marketing and communications program, or is it something else? And we've been working with them for just about a year now. We still haven't built a website. We worked on white papers, podcast, articles, advertising. But it turned out that the thing that they wanted, the thing that they had identified, was not the thing, after all of our work, that we believed was going to move them forward. So our sales process often uncovers things that people are not asking for, but they're still open to questioning or dealing with. And that this process, this consultative process and dealing with unexpected questions, also often shakes out people who are not ideal for us. Because frankly, if whether you need a website or not, if you know that what you want to talk about today is a website, then you're probably just going to get frustrated talking to us, because we're going to want to find out what's the why. To get back to one of the things you said, why do you want a website? What's making you think that? What's the data? What's the, whatever. And
Because everyone has a website, Eric, because everyone has a really cool website, and because it's got to have
exactly.
a great color scheme, it's got to, this,
Yep.
this, and that. That's standard, right?
Mm-hmm. And there are a lot of people who they identify a website as their problem or whatever the thing is. I'm just using that as an example.
Yeah.
And that is actually what they need. But when we uncover these other opportunities, if they are core issues that are bigger than that website you're asking about, the ideal client for us is willing to entertain the consultative process,
Yeah.
and then the proposal afterwards that says, maybe we table what you asked for and we deal with these other things that we believe are bigger.
Yeah. Sounds like definitely a lot of humility on both sides, right, is required. The person who you're obviously you're doing the consulting, but the person who's getting consultation being able to accept, okay, this what we want. You have to deal with the root, right? You can't just have the beautiful flowers. You have to really get in there and put in the right kind of seed. That sounds like
You
a
got it.
really, really very interesting thing that you guys are doing. So we're just going to switch gears here for a second and talk about you as a leader. So yeah, you're a consultant, you want to be able to connect with people. What kind of stuff do you consume? How do you educate yourself? How do you grow as a professional, as a person?
I do a lot of reading, and my preference for reading is either things that have been time tested. People will point to a book that was written, 20 years ago or something, and is still popular or is still, referenced in other books and podcasts and so on. If something has stood the test of time, then I tend to spend more time on that. But, I also read a lot of things that are more current. And I do a lot of audio as well. I can listen to an audiobook or a podcast while I'm doing many things. I get up every morning and I exercise for quite a while. I'm listening to something the entire time. A lot of times it is a podcast or an audiobook.
Yeah.
And then outside of those channels, I wouldn't say that I stay up too much with what's going on in organic social media nowadays. But I find that there are certain organizations who have strong email newsletters, or individuals that have email newsletters. And I make time every day, at the beginning of my day and the end of my day, to get to the things that are not always a project. They're not always like, working on whatever the task is, but rather are bigger picture, longer term, like, checking my email newsletters and seeing what smart people have to say. Because, I'm not smart enough often to create the really grand idea, but if I can synthesize ideas that other people have have created or come up with, then I think generally I've made a good use of my time.
Oh, Eric, don't say that. You're smarter than you think, I'm sure. You're
Thank
well
you.
traveled. Okay, you know what? We're just going to enter into our rapid fire section. So we're kind of slowly coming to the end. So I'm just going to shout out a couple of questions and you answer them as quickly as possible.
Perfect.
And no lying. This is honesty only. Okay, first question. What's the last book that you've read?
The last book that I read was Sprint by Jake Knapp, who was with Google Ventures, and he writes about their approach to the sprint process, which is similar to the agile sprint, all of that methodology.
Great. What's the one thing that your company is focused on at the moment?
The one thing that we are focused on is for ourselves is messaging, trying to figure out how we share with people, how we're not just some unique flower, but we are something that is really substantial.
If you could start over doing this, what would be the one piece of advice that you give yourself?
Well, if I was going to start over at BigWideSky itself, I would say break free from the mold and the mental models that you brought with you from prior organizations. And if I was going to start over altogether, I would say that deliberate practice is a real thing, like the whole 10,000 hours and whatnot. And also that relationships are important. The people that you work around, your clients, all that, all of those people can be very important to the future of your career. So work hard, deliberately, and keep the people around you in mind.
Great. We usually give people the last word, but that sounds like a great place to stop for today. Eric, thank you so much for your time. That is bigwidesky.com. And check them out. They're doing great work. Eric, thanks for your time.
Thank you very much, Sean.
See you guys next time.
Thank you.